So without further ado, I am going to give the mic over to Rushia, but I want to do just a quick introduction because I want to definitely let everybody know who you are and why you have been chosen to moderate this outstanding panel. So Rushia Brown, ladies and gentlemen, born in the Bronx, raised in South Carolina.
Kim, you're not going to read this bio, are you?
No.
Okay.
I'm just highlighting the special parts of who you are. You have a 10-year professional career overseas that spanned 5 countries. So you are quadruple times 3 lingual, I'm sure. You segued over to the WNBA. You played 6 years at Cleveland, 1 year at Charlotte, and then you transitioned as an executive to a number of outstanding organizations, one of which you founded was the Women's Professional Basketball Alumni Association. And I think that's how we became acquainted with one another. And then because of your philanthropy and your wonderful spirit and your acumen, your need to educate and empower and encourage and mentor, we chose you, Omni Group chose you as one of our 2016 Given Gracefully Award recipients. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, all the attendees, I will turn it over to you, Rushia.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much for that lengthy introduction. Very unnecessary, but thank you for your time and appreciation and all the work that you do as well. You mentioned most of the things that I've been doing, and I currently now am with the Las Vegas Aces, actually transitioning on Monday to the Los Angeles Sparks. So times are changing, but the one thing that I do believe in is that when you're committed to a passion, it doesn't matter what city, what organization, or what location you're in, your work is still to be done. So today I'm here to do something that is very passionate to me, which is educating our athletes. And I brought 2 very good friends with me, and I will allow them to introduce themselves individually. First, we have Miss Anne-Marie Anderson.
Hey there.
Good morning.
So Rushia and I work together on Aces broadcast, some play-by-play. Rushia's analyst. I have a 30-year career in sports television in a variety of different roles, on camera now, but producer ahead of time. And since we're talking about NFL here, I produced NFL coverage for about 15 years for ESPN, for SportsCenter, NFL Game Day, NFL Prime Time. So there were a lot of athletes over the years that I've worked with, both in terms of interviewing them for the shows, and then also when they transitioned to in front of the camera. A lot of people like Sean Salisbury, Mike Golick, a bunch of athletes who wanted to move into television.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. And we also have a very good friend of mine, Mr. Wale Ogunleye.
Hello, Rushia. Hey. Thanks for having me on. Yes, my name is Wale Ogunleye. She did really well with my name. I'm surprised you didn't make fun of me today, Rushia, but that's for another time.
Not in front of the kids, not in front of the kids.
But yeah, got you. I played in the NFL for 11 years. After that, I actually went to school with Rushia, and we both got our MBAs together at George Washington University. And in my current role now, I'm the head of sports entertainment at the global giant UBS. And my goal here is to help, student athletes understand basically in layman terms, money and how they should invest and do the right things with their money.
And so today we actually have some very multi-talented and diverse panelists along with myself that will help you guys just understand how it is that you build your brand. Because a lot of times athletes think that what they do on the court or field is the bulk of who they are. But what you have to understand is that sports is such a short career, be it college or even professional, and you spend such a little time in that space that you have to figure out what these relationships look like. And your interaction with the media is definitely one of those things that impacts how you're seen. It's not just your actions on the court or field, but your interactions, because the way people see you will be the way that they tend to move and interact with you based on your attitude and other things. So what we want to do is give you guys some key points to help you understand how to move forward and be productive and be able to take control of your own narrative. So I have 10 key points that the panelists and myself will go over to help you guys understand. And for me, I think the first thing is to be personal. And we have both Anne-Marie and Wale here, and coming from both sides, and myself as well. But I'll start, Anne-Marie, when you're interviewing, because when we talk about being personal, making eye contact, calling the reporter by their first name, being friendly, even if they're not interviewing you, because you want to be in a good space with them. Anne-Marie, can you speak to how that would play when you're having a relationship with a player?
Absolutely. And, I take it one step further and not just making eye contact with the reporter. I always notice, because again, I was behind the camera for a long time and then now in front of the camera. I notice when somebody comes in and introduces themselves to everybody in the room. If you treat my audio technician with respect, that's a beautiful thing. So introducing yourself. And there were some really top level athletes who always took the time when they would come in and say hello to everybody in the room, eye contact. John Elway comes to mind. He would always go around and say, "Hi, I'm John." And the audio person would say, "I'm Trevor." And everybody would just be so grateful for the human interaction, Rushia. And it made a very big difference. And it translates into the interview. It's just a much more relaxed, happy interview. Know that people talk in the media. So immediately from that, oh, John Elway's such a great guy. He was always so personal. That's all it takes to start building your reputation.
Very good. And Wale, I know with the time that you spent in the NFL, I'm sure you did plenty of interviews, on and off the field. What was your personal relationship like and how did it benefit you? I know you're very personal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll agree with those sentiments that Ann just said. I believe that when I was I'll just use Miami, I was going into the Pro Bowl. A lot of times these are the people who are going to vote, get you into the Pro Bowl. And at the end of the year, I was voted the MVP of the Miami Dolphins. The media had played a big role of that. And that now translates into when I want to get a bigger contract later on for the next time, the media's on your side. If you have a contract dispute, now all these people that you've become friends with are on your side. And they're not taking the side of the owners because they're like, you know what, I like Wale. He's actually a good guy. He's got a good point. We feel he should be paid. So they're going to write positive stories about you because I've made that relationship. So I had a really good relationship with the media. And I think what athletes should understand is that they do control a lot of the narrative and the way people are going to see you. So why not extend yourself, take a little bit extra time, introduce yourself to them, and have a personal relationship.
And you can find that you may have in common some things with various people. I know I spent some time where I've spoken to different people and we've been from the same state. And then you have that point of connection and you may know someone, and it really lends to the tendency for people to support you more readily when you have some type of connection, be it just your personal relationship and just understanding how you interact with people. So number one was being personal. Number two was being prepared. I think a lot of times if you know that you have an interview coming up, be aware of the situations that are going on in your locker room, on the quarter field, with your players, with your teammates, your coaches, and understand the things that are most beneficial to say, because the story is what people want to understand. But how you relay that story speaks heavily to who you are. And so, Anne-Marie, I don't know if you have any personal stories, but just understanding how the preparation of an athlete helps them to be more beneficial.
Of course. I mean, understand too, if there's something difficult going on in a locker room and you suspect that the interview is going to be about that, then take some time and think ahead of time about the words that you want to use, because nobody can put words in your mouth. So be prepared and know what the message is that you want to say, because that is something that you can control. So that's the advice there. Prepare, know all the issues happening. And if you think you're being asked for an interview, because at ESPN, we wouldn't tell you the questions ahead of time, right? You don't do that in journalism. Sometimes people would ask, can you tell me the questions? And it's like, well, no, we're having a conversation. But you can ask, what is the interview about? Absolutely. Make sure you know what the point is before you do the interview. Take some time to think about it.
And even if it's not something that's prepared, while they say, like if you were on the field, just right after a game, I know those are probably the most difficult times to gather yourself. How can you still put yourself in the best light?
I think for you, I think you've got to plan these things ahead. Ultimately, you don't know what's going to happen, the outcome of the game. The leagues have done good jobs of trying to get you some time to yourself. So take that time, whether it's 3 to 5 minutes, and gather your thoughts, take a deep breath, and try to think Now, what are these questions I'm going to be asked? I know they're going to ask about the win, they'll ask about the loss, maybe a play I made, good or bad, or maybe a play of one of my teammates. But remember, at the end of the day, these reporters are looking for you for these in the moment, heartfelt, not thought about questions, because those are the things that grab their attention and the headlines. You've got to think ahead of that and make sure that you don't put any one of your teammates, yourself, or your organization in a bad place. So think about those things before the game even starts, before it's even played. Same way you practice your craft, practice how you're going to speak to the media in those moments where, it's unexpected.
And Wale, you led me into a point that I was going to bring out a little bit later on, but since you went there, just saying not throwing your teammates under the bus, that locker room code is really important. Like there may be some things going on. I played on teams where I didn't like some of my teammates, but the media would have never known that because our interaction is as professionals and we work together. And so at any level, and I'm sure not everybody plays, you don't love everybody that you play with. But will you continue on that subject matter as to how you maintain the locker room code?
Look, at the end of the day, man, sports are just a microcosm of life. So you're just not going to get along with everybody. And no matter if you play right next to them for 7, 8 years, there's just going to be some differences. Things like that is that you can't throw people under the bus. At the end of the day, you're getting paid to play for a team, to bring a championship to that city. And the goals that are that you guys have aligned with, that's what makes you guys teammates. The stuff the outside, whether it's your political affiliations or music you listen to, that really doesn't matter. And don't let those things seep into the public domain. It's none of their business. At the end of the day, we're here to work together, play together, and be great teammates. And that's number one rule for a teammate. And other people respect that. If you don't have that code, you'll find a way. Teams that don't have that code are probably not really good teams, and they don't play well together, and they don't win championships. The locker room code is probably one of the most unspoken codes in all of the world, but it is a true thing.
And I know I've been in situations where like stuff happens and the media wants to know. And even from my own personal experience, transitioning from being an athlete to being on the other side of the camera, well, now I have to ask questions, even when I know the answers. I did TV here with the Aces, and I spent every day with them. So I knew what was going on, but then some days I would feel like the cat that swallowed the canary because I didn't want to say anything because I was still that athlete not wanting to talk about it. So Anne-Marie, I'm sure there have been times where issues, I know because we've had a couple of them together when things have happened with the teams. How do you work with athletes when you want to get that story and figure out what's going on?
Well, I think you can always ask the question respectfully. But I think on the other side as the athlete, you can answer any question you want. You know what I mean? You don't have to answer the question that was put to you. And it's the athlete controls the narrative. So if somebody asks you a question about, there's been a lot of attention given to some problems in your locker room, and I'm wondering what you think about that. You literally can answer that and say, this team has just such beautiful unity, and the way that we've been playing on the court really speaks to, how we all buy into the program. That didn't really answer the question, but you're controlling that. So you get to say what you want to say. You never have to answer the question the way that it's put to you. And they might re-ask, in talking about what you and Wale were saying, also, you want to make a nice impression, a nice brand, praise your teammates. We know how good you are. We're interviewing you, so we know how good you are. If you say, yeah, it was a great pass, but I don't know if you saw the block. The block that so-and-so gave me really allowed that, and a lot of credit to him. Whew, you look terrific at that point. You just built the relationship with your teammate as well.
And that's a very valid point. And I think a lot of times and I've done it myself, they come to you and ask you a question about how great a job you did. The reality is when we're playing sports, none of us does it alone. This is not tennis. This is not the sprint, the 100 in track. So everybody plays a role. So the ability to praise your teammates, like you say, really makes a difference. Also, answering the question the way that you want to. You are not mandated to dish dirt on somebody just because they ask. Absolutely. And as Wale referred to, just being able to preserve that locker room code, your teammates will even trust you more. Even if I don't like you, I trust you because I know you're not going to go out and say, well, Rushia missed whatever, don't throw dirt on me because I didn't do the things that was necessary. So the thing that is most important is preserving the sanctity of that locker room and making sure that you protect one another first. So that was the locker room code. It was down my list some, Wale, but since you went there, I just wanted to go there with it as well.
Sorry.
No, I'm a flow. I'm flexible, just like you. Let's go. So, so another point that I think is really important is being professional and respectful. No matter what level you're playing in the sport, you can be in high school, college, or in the pros. The level of professionalism that you show to the people that are interviewing you and just the time that you get on the camera, because we spoke earlier, you are the brand. So what about you is going to make people be drawn to you? What about you is going to make the Miami Herald say, yes, Wale does a great job. We want to support him. Your professionalism and respect. So Anne-Marie, I'll start with you again and just understanding like relationship. You spoke a little bit about John Elway, but how does that impact the mindset of a reporter or a journalist when covering athletes?
Well, one of my favorite NFL players of all time to interview was Junior Seau. I love Junior Seau. A good man. And I was very young, I think 24, 25 years old, when I was going down to the Chargers. It seemed like every week. And somebody like John Elway, Junior Seau, they have everybody wanting to interview them all the time. And it's draining for them. And so what Junior did with me was he said, I'll give you 3 questions. That's all I can give you. That's the time I have. I will give you 3 questions. And I said, okay, but if you use a cliche in any of the answers, I get an extra question. So if he says, I and team backs against the wall, I'd get an extra question. So we had a little rapport built there where I respected his time because he set very clear parameters. This is what I can do. And so I never asked for a 4th question if he didn't give me cliches. But we had a little bit of a joke too. And I think just his respect. And I also remember really vividly, Rushia, an NFL player in the Chargers locker room that was not Junior Seau, who when I went to interview him, and we're in that uncomfortable position. We're in a locker room where men are changing clothes, where they are, in a state of undress. And it's a tough place to be in. And this particular athlete decided he didn't want to put on clothes. He was going to make me, as a young girl, interview him completely naked. And I had already been doing this for a while. And so I kept my eye contact with him because I wasn't going to let him win. And then out of the corner of my eye, Junior Seau came flying in and handled the situation and talked to that athlete about respect and how he was disrespecting himself by not acting professionally. And I've loved Junior Seau every day since.
And that's incredible and a great story because I really, especially as a woman in that space where you're working with men, you tend to be in certain situations. And so Wale, I'll come to you with the professionalism and respectful. Sometimes, let's say if a question is being asked and like Anne-Marie spoke up earlier, you divert from it because it's pulling and it's going to put you in a terrible position and you feel like you're being disrespected because they keep coming at you. How do you respond in that space?
I think at the time, what you'd have to do now is just be a human being. Normally in the street, if somebody disrespects you, what you do is you just walk away, and take some time to think about it. Don't react in the moment. Again, in the moment, people are going to respect the fact that you had some restraint. I mean, you are an athlete. There's so many emotions running through you, things that you've done. We're trained to actually run to conflict. We're trained to actually get strong in that moment and want to lash out and react. I think it shows more strength for you and respect for yourself to say, you know what, I'm just going to remove myself from the situation. This is not going to be positive for us. And to go back to what Ann was talking about with respect and professionalism, when I was with the Dolphins, at the time when I played the Dolphins back in early 2000s, there was a guy named Chris Greer who was a part of scouting. But you know what? I would always talk to Chris Greer. I would always speak to him kindly. I know the truth of the matter, he was the coffee guy. He was the low man on the totem pole. They would make him go do this, go do that. really nobody that anybody really thought of. Now, if you go to MiamiDolphins.com right now, Chris Greer is the general manager. So
Wow.
the thing that you've got to understand about the people that you're going to see in life, you don't you don't know where they're going to end up. So always treat everybody like you want to be treated, but treat them like there's somebody that can do something, not just for you, but you can do something for them. But no matter who it is, whether it's the equipment manager, the president, you treat them all equal, you're going to be good. And that is my level of professionalism that I've been able to do throughout my whole life. I don't care who it was. If I'm in your walk of life, I'm going to speak. Another real quick thing about professionalism is a lot of times when these teams are thinking about drafting NFL players, they will go to the hotel concierge, they'll go to the hotel front desk and ask them, how was he when he was checking in? Was he polite? And then when you leave a restaurant, they'll ask the waiter, was he really nice to you? They'll ask those questions because they really want to know how good of a person are you. So remember that in your walks of life, you stay professional, stay businesslike, and just once be a human being.
That's a great point, Wale. And the thing is, like, a lot of times athletes are seen a certain way, but you have, once again, the ability to control the narrative as to who you are and not just be that athlete. And the way you interact with people, the way you carry yourself, and the way you make people feel is extremely important. I've looked at my position since I've been in the executive space here with the Aces, where we were talking about players that we're scanning through their social media. We're looking at, where they were, who their friends are, and the type of interactions and activities because it's about your brand aligning with the brand of that organization, especially in college. And a lot of younger players have gotten into the social media space where they just want to show how good of a time they're having. But just know that there have been a lot of athletes that have lost opportunities based on what they posted on social media. And that just shows your interaction and your lack of professionalism. Even if you're not being paid, that scholarship is considered, a financial payment of sorts. So when they are investing money, you have to really be mindful about how you carry yourself, because it's really important. And so professionalism and respect yourself, as well as the people that you're interacting with, all very important. So these two are very, very engaging, but that's the next point. I've had an interaction with a few players where you speak to them and they give you one-word answers. They're not comfortable, and some of it may be personality, but some of them just don't like being in a space where they have to answer questions for the media, and it does not work to your benefit when you have that space. So I want to encourage you to be engaging. Wale, I'll let you start again. I've said it before, you are very personable, but how has that benefited you in the space of working with the media? You spoke earlier about it a little bit, but we can go in just a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think what happens is now when I have, just by being engaging, when you have causes, like, I do these Thanksgiving Day turkey drives, like the media now will bend over backwards for me to make sure that they cover the story or pitch it to their producer or the editor. Like, we want to be at this event, it's going to be a great event. We love Wale. They'll do that, things like that. So my relationship with the media, again, not everybody wants to talk and be in front of people, because let's be honest, it's draining sometimes, right? It's draining to sit and try to pour yourself into people. But at the same time, what I would tell people is find outlets. Maybe when you go home, you have a sense of quiet and calm. But the things that we're talking about now, find ways to get stronger in it. Interact with people, talk to them. I know sometimes it's not the best thing, and sometimes it's things you don't even really want to talk about, and it might not be a great day. But practice these things, and then have outlets outside of the arena, outside of the practice facility, that you can calm your nerves and be calm and now re-energize for the next day, because it can get draining. So I know people like Rushia and Ann make it look easy and fun, but no one wants to do it every single day without it being a hassle. But you know what it is? They've gotten better at it. They've understood that there's going to be other outlets that I can figure out how I can calm myself, whether it be yoga or going to the movies or speaking to a friend, that now going to work tomorrow or the next day, that you know that this is coming and I need to be engaging and I need to be like my bright self. And again, those things are now going to lead to a better contract, better press in the media, better coverage for your foundations, better coverage for your businesses. Anything that you have that you want to get pushed out into the real world, except for you just having social media, you have the people that can write good stories for you and make you look better than you can make yourself look.
Absolutely, because you have another set of voices. And Anne-Marie, I know you've had some people that have been engaging and then some that have not been so engaging. Would you like to share a story or pull an incident?
Sure. The thing that comes to mind in terms of the way to handle it, if you're uncomfortable being interviewed, in my opinion, is to tell the person who is interviewing you that you're uncomfortable. Like I would respect somebody who said to me, all right, we're going to do this, but I got to let you know I'm a little bit shy. Okay. As soon as you do that, you've got compassion coming from the person interviewing you, because you know what? They may be nervous to be interviewing you. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you humanize it and say, I got to let you know I'm a little bit shy. Okay. As soon as you do that, guards come down. They're not looking generally to hurt you. They're looking to do their job and get what they need from their boss, which is, I've never, ever had a boss say anything with malice in terms of what we're trying to get. We're just trying to get the story as you see it. So if you're uncomfortable, share that. That might just help you break through that barrier, and you will get more compassion from the person with whom you're working.
And I think it's really important, as you mentioned, to humanize it. And I'm a jabberjaws. I can talk to anyone at any time for as long as they would like to. But I do realize, that that's not. Wale, what are you laughing at?
That's true.
Wale, we'll talk later. Okay.
But I do realize that that's not everyone's personality. And just last year, with our Rookie of the Year last year, Jackie Young, incredible athlete, shy, will not speak. She was on this team last year with all these personalities, and I think she said 10 words. She laughed a lot because they're a bunch of crazy people, but she never spoke. But the time came when she had to do an interview, and she begged me not to interview her. So I sat with her and I was like, look, Jackie, we want to give the world a different view of who you are, more than just an athlete. So I prepped her, and like typically we don't tell the questions and what we're going to ask. But because she shared with me that she was really shy, and I already knew, we sat down and talked about the things that she would be comfortable with. I let her know what I would be asking her so she can prepare herself and not be starstruck when the camera was on her. So that point that you brought up, Anne-Marie, just letting people know how you feel. If you have a tendency to be more quiet or shy, sharing that with whoever's interviewing you will definitely benefit you, because now they know how to approach you and they know how to, come at you more easily and even transition quickly when you're not responding as well as you could have. So those things really matter. And you're shaking your head like you got something else to say. You want to share some more?
I just wanted to comment on that or clarify, when we don't tell the questions, when I was saying that, it isn't that it's a secret. I mean, for me, 30 years in, I don't know what the question is necessarily. I'm having a conversation. But absolutely, in terms of you talking with Jackie about what the content's going to be generally, I think it's totally reasonable to ask that, and it will help the athlete get more comfortable. So I just wanted to clarify that. It wasn't that it's a secret. Mm-hmm. And I'm asking Wale for an interview, hey, you don't know where it's going to go. Right. He absolutely can ask, what is this about? And we can talk about it, so that, to your point, Rushia, you can prepare what the message is that you want to send on that particular topic.
Very good. So we have a question. When you are looking at social media platforms, do you decipher someone who is fun-loving and has a snarky sense of humor versus those who have controversial political or personal views? That's a good question. Anne-Marie, I'll let you start with that one.
Yeah, don't post anything political. Just don't. Just don't. That's my opinion, and I know that a lot of people are very passionate about their politics. But when you're trying, actually, almost all of us are passionate about our politics, but when you're trying to build a brand, you have to understand, I think, in my opinion, and Wale maybe will disagree with me, but that you're going to alienate part of your potential audience, supporters, backers, immediately by doing that. I love a good sense of humor on somebody and somebody who's a little bit snarky. But if you are liking somebody's posts that are angry, it only takes once for people to see it. Somebody's post who is angry. Certainly, if you want to lose your job, lose your scholarship, post something derogatory about somebody, because then you're gone. You're gone. There's no room for it. So fun-loving, happy, great, thoughtful, wonderful, passionate about a cause, absolutely. But understand that your whole audience is going to see it. So don't shove half of them away.
And Wale?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think you just have to be thoughtful. I think at the end of the day, you got to realize that not everyone, and if you come from that premise that not everyone's going to agree with you, and it's okay. If you can have that mentality, then I think what you post and what you write is going to help dictate, what people see. Understand that it's okay for Anne to have her views. It's okay for Rushia to have her views, and we're still good friends. And if you think of the world that way, I think you'll be mindful of what you write and what you post. But at the end of the day, if there's something that I think you're passionate about, and you can articulate it in a way where where people can see where you're coming from. Okay, now this takes time to articulate it, so where that no one understands, at least you see the whole picture and you decide. Whatever the cause is, then that's on you, and that's on for your own conscience. But still, at the end of the day, you got to know that there's going to be some repercussions for some opinions that people don't agree with, and not everyone's going to have that view. And that person might be your coach, or that person might be the owner of the team. That person might be a sponsor that wants to sponsor you. And if you're okay with losing that future contract, or okay with losing that future endorsement, then go ahead. But know that there are some repercussions, only because people don't always think on, it's okay for them to have that view. Some people really are like, you have that view, then I don't want to deal with you. So have that in the back of your mind before you post anything.
And it really goes back to speaking about how you have to be human. You have to understand that we live in a world where people are different, where we have different views, different mindsets. As long as we're not disrespectful, and that, like you say, you don't want to push people away. I could like chicken instead of steak. Wale, you can't convince me otherwise. But we can still go out to eat together. So you just want to put yourself in a space where you are making the people around you not uncomfortable because you share different views. But negativity is never the way to go, because everybody sees it and there is no way to erase it. Just because you press delete does not mean it goes away. There have been situations where people have gone back 5-10 years on social media and pulled something up and say, yeah, it was deleted 5 days after, but somebody took a screenshot. Somebody has evidence or proof of it. And so there's no way to run away from it. So just be mindful before you do it, because there's no way to erase it.
Yeah, and if somebody posts or comments on it and negatively, whatever you wrote, my suggestion is to write, I respect that you took the time to show me your opinion. We'll just disagree this time.
Yeah.
I agree to disagree. That's usually something I say, unless I got time, but that I can.
Yes. You like steak way more than chicken. I've never seen a woman who likes steak more than you. So let's just get rid of the whole steak versus chicken thing.
Yes, it was just an example. Not very. Okay, so we're moving in, and when you're in college, you definitely have so many obligations with school and your sport. Then when you get to professional, you have, again, it increases. But one of the things I think is really important, another, is to be accommodating. And maybe doing an interview naked is not very accommodating, but there are other spaces where people have to make arrangements so that what you need is delivered to the journalist. How do you guys allow for your own personality to help you in being accommodating, both as a journalist and an athlete? I don't know who wants to start first. Wale?
Well, yeah, I think at the end of the day, again, it goes back to the tenet of just being a human being and understanding, I understand that they have a job to do. And if you come from that angle, that you have your job to do, they have the job to do. And at the end of the day, our job together is to build this sport up and make sure that we get as much publicity and money coming in as possible. With that being said, now technically we're kind of a team. And if you look at the journalists and the reporters in your life as team, to help push the narrative that we're going to be great, I'm going to be great, I need more money, I need a bigger contract, then now you guys will do the right things you'll do the right things to make sure that you're not bending over backwards to interview me. Like, it's not always a hassle to get in front of my face. Like, at the end of the day, they're not going to want to work with you. They're not going to want to promote you if they feel like every time I've got to pick up the phone to call Wale or get an interview, he's going to do some stupidness like be naked in front of the locker room or be disrespectful or curse or call women out their name and, use all these kind of words. So understand that your brand is bigger than you. And the people that affect your brand are just not you too. And it is a team effort. And if you do that, you're accommodating for them. People in turn will be accommodating to you, and everyone will reap the benefits of that.
Good. Anne-Marie?
The first thing in terms of being accommodating is, for me, it's be on time. Whatever time we agreed to, be on time, because we've all got places to be. By the way, that goes for journalists too. There is nothing that's ever been more embarrassing for me than when the athlete shows up and the audio guy is still getting himself together. I lose it when I was a producer, because we do not make people wait for us. So you need to be ready. And then the other thing about being accommodating is ask respectfully for what you need. Kind of like Junior Seau saying 3 questions, or Randy Johnson, great pitcher for the Mariners. I remember once, again, I was super young, going in to interview him, and I had done something else first. And so I went over kind of late to join the scrum that was interviewing him, and he said, "I'm done." And I asked the question anyway. And he turned and he looked at me and he said, "I said I'm done." And it was like, that's right.
Okay.
He was clear. Yeah, and it was my fault. Like, I should have prioritized differently. But, he didn't argue with me. He wasn't nasty. But again, another huge superstar, he's got things he needs to do. And so ask for what you need. From then forward, whenever I did the Mariners, I went to Randy Johnson first.
He set the standard. And
yeah, he would stand back for a second, and then, it's tough when you're choosing between superstars.
And so just understanding that accommodating is on both parts, both the athlete and the journalist, and just making sure that you're in the best space for you guys. Like Wale mentioned, if you're a team, put each other in the best position to be successful. And understanding that if I get to where I'm supposed to be on time, then we can get this story done and everybody can be over and we can go home. So figure those things out and just understand, once again, that relationship is very beneficial. So we talked a little bit about the locker room code and just how there are certain things you just should not say, and you can divert away from any question and answer the way that you want to. How do you know when to say no comment? Because you don't always want to speak. You don't have to always say something. When is the time when you may have had to or expected, or when do you know when to say no comment?
I'll start with that. I think for me personally, it starts with the business of my other teammates. If a reporter is trying to get a scoop and they're trying to get some, get some notes on a player or a coach, and they come to you for the answer or for maybe the leak, I think that's absolutely where you should draw the line. One, again, let's talk about what this is. Again, we talked about the reporters and it being a team, and it's individual relationships that these reporters have with everybody else on the team, and everybody's trying to get their share, their contract, as much money as they can, much endorsement as they can. If you speak out against a player on your team, whether it's especially in a negative light, now the organization, this might be a good player. I had this situation in Miami. I was in a contract dispute. They went to the best player on the team. The best player on the team said something like, "Well, when I was in his shoes, I signed the contract, so I don't know why he wouldn't." Now, half of the city is against me because they feel like, wait, it was good for him. Why is it not good for you? Well, you don't know my situation. So I would have liked for my teammate at that moment to say, you know what, no comment. At the end of the day, that's his business between him and the organization. They're going to get it fixed. And so that's the number one thing I think for me was no comment. Two, I think politically, try your best to stay out of that realm, especially in this polarizing time that we're in. A lot of times, elections are coming up. They're going to want to ask, who you're voting for, and why you're voting for them. Be careful with those type of comments, because at the end of the day, like we said earlier, you're going to lose half of the city, half of the country when you make those statements.
Great points, Wale. Anne-Marie?
I couldn't agree more. And for me, I'd stay away from the two words "no comment" just because they come off as harsh. Again, you're trying to massage it as much as possible because sometimes they'll use. First of all, when a reporter goes to ask you a question about your teammates, that's weak. That's weak journalism. It's lazy journalism, but not everybody's terrific at their job. They shouldn't do that, but it happens. So they could, if they're not the most ethical journalist, still use that clip. I asked Wale, blah, 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 or use the question maybe and him saying no comment, because then maybe you don't look so great. So again, you control everything. The second part of that, that's my teammate's business. That Wale said, that's my teammate's business, and that's between him and management. Well, they can't do anything with that. They can't make you look bad with that. They can't anything. You can use phrases like, I don't have any thoughts on that, or, that's not really something I can speak to. These are all little phrases you can use, because even if they cut what you give them and it is no comment, it can make you not look so great. Mm-hmm. So you control it. You always remember it. But I couldn't agree with Wale more. When they ask you to comment on either something political or your teammates, you are absolutely not obligated ever really to answer any question that's asked. Just make sure your response, you'd be okay with your response if they decided to air that.
And it's important. And I don't know, I think the whole world has been watching The Last Dance, and just in watching all the stuff that's going on at this point, just talk about Scotty and Michael and how things were going. And this is the conversation now, but there are rumors of there having been leaks out of the locker room, and, people saying, well, off the record, and well, an anonymous source said, just know that it always gets out. And so I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. Avoid off the record, because you can't hide behind anonymity, and you got to embrace the reality that there are no secrets. Like, trust, if I'm telling you, somebody else is going to know about it. So how do you feel about that space and avoiding the off the record?
Yeah, twofold, right? I have never, ever shared something that somebody has told me off the record, which is why I'm still working. However, there are things, and I think you and I did this once during an Aces game too, when we knew a player wasn't going to play or what was going on, that we don't even tell our producer until it's time, because we're so afraid of it getting out, somebody else using what's off the record. So I would just, unless you've got a really deep relationship with that reporter, just don't bother saying off the record. People naturally sometimes will try to advance themselves, their careers, by having the scoop of what you were giving them as background information. So anything that comes out of your mouth, assume it's public. It's going to go public.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'm just thinking about my 4-year-old daughter right now. Like, if I told her right now a secret and I told her, keep it between me and you, it's like this. It's like juggling. I'm not sure what's going to happen. And I think that's what, as athletes, you should always have that mindset. Like, whatever you say, know that you're okay with it going out to the world. That should be your mindset no matter what. So anything off the record, there's no such thing. And two, even information that is privy to the team, but maybe not to the general public, even though you can give it to the reporter and they're not sure what source is going to come from, still, I would get away from those type of situations, because you never know what happens. Like I said, people leave, relationships change, a reporter might cover another team or part of the country, and now they'll remember back, I remember when I spoke to, like, even with the mic thing, like they're coming on Horace Grant a little bit now, like talking about he was the leak,
yeah,
right?
the leak.
So I was like, Horace Grant was the leak, because of other fans. So, and that was over 20 years ago. So it's never going to be off the record. Someone's going to know, and it's probably going to come back in a documentary called, The Last Dance. So, so be careful.
That the world is watching.
Yeah, so be careful.
You got long memories.
Yeah, and the one thing that I found important in one of my experiences in Cleveland, where I was young, I would be out hanging out with my teammates a lot, and we would see some of the journalists sometimes. So they'd be, hey, let me buy you a drink. So we'd all be hanging out, and then they'd be trying to ask questions. After a long night, like you may question differently than you would answer,
Right.
in the middle of the day right after practice. And so I just think being mindful of the relationships and understanding the interaction that you have with people, there is still a level of professionalism. And if you don't know that person, like my team, my girls, the ladies for the Aces, we can go somewhere and do something, and they know there's a difference between Rushia and the journalist. They know that. But you don't always have that relationship with everyone else. So you have to be extremely mindful of the interactions and be professional at all times, because it could, like you said, nothing is off the record. Let's see. We're getting kind of close. I've got like one more point, and then we'll open up for questions. And we spoke to it a little bit, so maybe we'll move into a different space, but just understanding that everybody has a different personality, and you got to act like it's fun. How can you put people in a position, it is just a game. The game that we love, whatever sport you're playing, is something that you love. And even when it's been hard, let's say, Wale, you're coming off the field, tough game, you could have got these sacks, you sucked it up, you were terrible. Look at that face already. How do you respond in the heat of that moment? I know there's some downtime before the reporters get in, but how do you put yourself in a space where, okay, I have to be positive and not keep harping on the mistake?
Well, I think number one, you take responsibility for it. Same way that when you're winning, you give your teammates the credit. When chips are down, you take the brunt of the problem. You put it on your shoulders and say, you know what, I wish I could have done a little bit better. All I know is how to work hard, and next time I hope there's going to be a better outcome. And again, my teammates tried their best, but I think I might have let people down. It's on me. That kind of stuff, one, you're going to get so much respect from your teammates. The organization now upstairs, the owners, the managers look at that, and they love that, because they say, you know what, we got a guy that we can rely on. We got a guy that's coachable. And we know that coming in on the meeting on Monday, that we could talk to him about it and say, you know what, you didn't do that bad. Actually, we'd like that you took the blame for it, but this is what really happened. But you know what? No one needs to know that. And that's a good thing about it. You get the respect of your teammates, respect of the ownership, and the fans know that they can rely on you to be honest and take all of the heat when the chips are down. And that goes a long way. It's going to go a long way for you, and it's a lesson for you for life. Because some things in life, nothing is easy. And sometimes there are going to be some, especially with this virus, this thing that's going on around us now, you've got to be able to say, you know what, chips are down. Responsibility is on me to make sure I stay healthy. Responsibility is on me that I take care of my family, make sure there's food on the table. And if you build that up over time, nothing that comes your way is going to be able to bring you down.
Great point, Wale.
Yeah. I wish I had interviewed Wale. I didn't cover the Dolphins very much because I was West Coast, but that answer that you gave is 100% something I would use on NFL Primetime or Sports Center. It was so perfectly put. It is accountability. It's not avoiding the issue. It's not angry. It is taking responsibility. It makes you look good. I got my job done in terms of asking the question about it. It's perfection, right? It's just taking responsibility, answering the question with length. I mean, there's nothing worse than somebody answering you tersely or very short, because then I have to ask you again. Because I need something longer. I can't use 3 seconds. I literally, in order to edit something, need at least 6 seconds to put it on. So I really love what Wale said there.
That's great stuff. And I think we've covered a lot of really good points and the highlights. One of the things, controlling the narrative. We are in a position as an athlete, young ladies and gentlemen, have an opportunity to tell the story that you want told. And I will give, this might be off the subject, but you have to also be mindful that not everyone will represent you in the way that you should be represented. And one of the things that happened for me while I was watching the NFL draft, there was a young man being drafted. I'm sure his family was excited. They talked about his speed, his quickness, all this other stuff. And at the bottom, his mother is a 16-year addict. I was blown away by that because I don't understand what that has to do with anything. But you can rest assured that he will now be asked those questions. So if there is something in your life that you know people could use against you, prepare yourself to answer those questions so you're not caught off guard. Because in that space, if it was me and somebody would ask me like that, I would have been on the defensive. And as professional as I am traditionally, that would have stoked me just a little bit because I thought it was disrespectful. So sometimes you will be in a position where you may be disrespected, and sometimes you will have to be the bigger person. Because you are the athlete, people have higher expectations for you and there are more eyes on you. So always put yourself in a position to win. Wale mentioned it earlier. Sometimes you have to take a breath and walk away because that's going to be the thing that's most beneficial. But understand that your interaction and your relationship with the media is of benefit to you because it has been mentioned several times. Your brand is not just about what you do on and off the court, but the way that you treat people, being human, interacting with everyone on the same level, because they can be the coffee boy one day and the general manager the next day. So your relationships are really, really important. There's something that came through during the times we're in now. How should a college or professional athlete respond if they're being asked, should college or pro sports return, and how they feel about the possibility of playing without fans? That's huge. That's the, like right now with the virus, they are trying to figure out how to continue sports. Mm-hmm. So how should someone answer? What do you guys think? What should be your response?
Rushia, I just want to follow up really quickly on the comment you made about the NFL draft, and two things. I don't know if you saw the way that young man handled the mother battled drug abuse for 16 years, but he did a great job in that he then answered and put on his social media, I am so proud of my mom and the fact that she's so strong to have battled that. So that's the first thing. He turned into something that, again, a boy proud of his mama, how beautiful, right? And then the other question I had in my head, and I should call one of my friends who did the draft and ask, where did they get that information? Because that probably was written about somewhere. And so my guess is it was put out somewhere by them. So I wonder if he wrote about his mother's battle and that's why that was on there. Because that was I did the same thing. I kind of flinched when I thought that's not typical lower third information. So I wonder a little bit kind of if that was something that he has had as part of his media. Just a thought. In terms
of
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Wale, if you're speaking on that, because we'll move to the next question after.
Yeah. I also wanted to add on that. I said it too. I think what people also don't be shocked about the biases and the stereotypes that that may come in front of you, whether it's from where you're from, your demographics, your background, and especially young women in the world. The corporate world is really rough, and I've seen it firsthand, whether it be on professional sports or in the corporate world that I am now. There's so many factors that women have to fight through, and so much garbage that you have to filter through just to get on the same level as a man that maybe not even have the half of experience that you guys have. I want everyone to always have the knowledge going in that there's some people that just have some biases and stereotypes and ways of doing business that they think is normal and it's okay, but it's not okay. But for you to stay professional and understand that going in is going to give you a leg up. And that's a thing that I think all of us have to overcome. But there's some pockets of our population, from me looking at it, that have some stronger headwinds in front of them that if going in, you're going to be able to be a little bit more prepared going into these situations.
Great point.
I just want to add that point.
And we've only got 4 minutes left, so I'm going to
Okay.
pass him in a second, but just how should the response be when they're talking about, what should the professional athletes do moving into the space, college or professional?
We don't know. I think that's what the answer should be, because we don't know, right? I mean, let's not pretend that we know something more than we know. That's something that's up to the commissioners of the league. That's the way that I would choose to answer it. We don't know. I'm prepared to do whatever is asked of me by the commissioners of the league.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Same way. I mean, it's the end of the day, we don't, no one really knows exactly what's going on. It seems like there's so many different narratives coming out. I think right now all we have to do is just sit back and watch, be patient with each other, check on each other, love on each other, and then one day we'll figure this out, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And as we move into our new normal, I think the most important thing is that we're all safe at home, like Kim mentioned in the introduction. And it's not about how quickly we can get back to the courts or fields, because we all want to be there, but how safe are we going to be when that actually happens? So Anne-Marie and Wale, I want to thank you guys both for your time and sharing with us. Everyone who's attended, we got some pretty good numbers. So thank you all. I hope you grab something from this. And now I'll pass it back to Kim.
Thank you, Rushia. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you, Wale. Y'all were outstanding. I mean, the information was priceless. There were 10 true nuggets of wisdom from in front of and behind the camera. I was taking copious notes. So I want to thank you so much. Thank you, Rushia. You're my girl. You're my ride or die. I can always depend on you. Why don't you let people know where to find you?
All over the world. Well, anyway, my social at home right now, because we are all stuck, but safe, not
Yes.
stuck. On social media, Rushia Brown on Facebook, Rushia B on Twitter and Instagram. What else is there? I think that's all I have. Mm-hmm.
Anne-Marie and Wale, you got to let them know how to find you. How to connect.
Yeah, please do. Anne-Marie Anderson TV on Instagram. We have a podcast called Sports Like a Boss that we just had Shaq on last week. Mia Hamm today. We have some good stuff. We have a very big name in college football next week. So Sports Like a Boss, Anne-Marie Anderson TV.
Wale, what about you?
Oh, he's muted.
Here we
Okay.
go. Perfect. I'm only on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram yet. Too much trouble on Instagram for me. But I will. It's Ayo the Prince 93. Ayo the Prince 93, and that's on Twitter. So guys, reach out to me, and this was fun.
Absolutely. Thank you to all of our attendees. We had parents of athletes on. We had some athletes. We had some wives. We had coaches. We had industry professionals. And we even had some students who were on. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to hang out with us. Thank you to my team, Nicole Tate and Ebony McHugh. You guys are thebomb.com. Y'all, we have a number of other post-draft panels that we're bringing to you since we are all staying safe at home right now. So check us out next week. We're going to have a post-career chat with some of our cool cats who retired, and they're going to tell us about their transition from the field to the real regular world, their normal. And we just want to thank you so much. Be safe. You can follow us at Ombi Group LLC on all of the social media platforms. You guys stay safe, take care, and thank you so much again for hanging out with us on this April 30th.
Awesome. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.